Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the West Coast Davengers Interview Edition. I'm your host, Dave, but that's not important right now. What's important is that you are watching and you're going to hit the like button and you're going to hit the subscribe button. I have a bunch of new merch if you're into it. This is not mine, but I have a bunch of merch if you're into it. There's a link to that down below. You know, it helps support the channel. T-shirts, coffee mugs, hoodies, all that good stuff. But enough about me. Well, I do have the new podcast, Direct Edition. You can find links for that down below. It's a little bit of everything. That's me, my voice, without this beautiful mug. Hopefully, you'll be okay just listening to me. Without further ado, I'm going to present to you my interview with Derek Kirk Kim that took place at Davenger Con on the weekend of April 20th. That's 420. We talk a lot about The Last Mermaid, his career, and then he surprises me with a unboxing of a childhood box of comics. So check that out right here. This man has made a brand new comic called The Last Mermaid with Image Comics. Second issue just came out. He's been featured in anthologies such as Bizarro World and 1001 Nights of Snowfall, Fables. Also won so many awards for the book Same Difference, and he also worked in animation on X-Cop and Adventure Time. Ladies and gentlemen, Germs and Germettes, Derek Kirk Kim.
Hey, how's it going, Dave?
How you doing, man?
Good.
Well, welcome to Davenger Con, the weirdest, most dangerous thing I could do to my brain is stream for 12 to 14 straight hours. But
well, I'm really glad I have you early on when you're still fresh and not a zombie.
Yeah, no. By tomorrow night, I'm going to be talking to Eric Larson about like Atari or something, and he's going to be like, "What are we talking about?"
Yeah. Oh man. And also, I never imagined I'd be following Alan Moore. So it's
that's
a
right. Honor. Yeah, Alan. Who I didn't know I get these interviews, and this guy sends me this thumb drive, and I'm just like, I guess I'll play it. But this is supposed to be fun. You know, we can't take life too seriously, especially when it comes to pictures and words, you know?
Yep. I love that. I love that energy.
So I thought it was pretty cool. And for people that don't know, you can find the link below, but Derek has a semi-dormant YouTube channel. But the thing is there's this cool short film on there, Glitch, which I watched the other day, was that a student film? Like, when did you make that?
Gosh, I can't remember the exact year, but it was about 10 years ago. And I started learning filmmaking at Los Angeles City College. Mm-hmm. And that was the first film thing I ever made. And eventually that led to me directing at Disney. So, I mean, I guess it all paid off eventually.
It worked. Yeah, it's a fun one.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. And like, as somebody, I went to film school for 1 year and it just wasn't for me. But I enjoy doing that stuff. As you know, people that watch this channel can see, I enjoy the process of editing and just being, letting my creative juices flow. So I appreciated watching that. Yeah, it was nice to see that, especially because I knew exactly where he filmed it too. I've been to all of those places. I have a picture of me jumping over the skyline of LA from that last, the place where you shot the last shots.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So everybody click the link when you get a chance and check out his YouTube channel, because there's some other stuff on there that's fun. Going to the beginning, what was your first experience with comics as a young person, as a kid?
Well, I immigrated to America when I was 8 years old. So my first brushes with comics were actually translated manga, I think, mostly, and also Korean comics.
Yeah.
Korean comics came out in those thick, like the way the Japanese weekly ones come out, like the Shonen Jump.
Yeah.
And sorry, I just ate.
Okay.
So those are the comics. So unfortunately, because I got Americanized and I don't. My Korean's very minimal now, so I unfortunately don't remember any of the titles. But I think a lot of the first ones I read were I think Astro Boy was in there.
Nice.
Yeah, I remember Gundam really vividly, the cartoon. I remember watching Gundam, being obsessed with Gundam, and Kimba the White Lion.
Oh wow.
aka the Lion King.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so Tezuka, I think early on had a big influence on me. And then when I came to America, though, I discovered Spider-Man. I think that was like the first comic I discovered. And I don't know if you remember this, but in the 80s, they had this digest-sized Spider-Man comics. They were like really small, yeah, and they collected like 3 of the Romita Stanley comics.
They were usually found at the checkout in like the grocery stores and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It was in the Archie format.
Yep.
And I wish they still did that. I love that format.
They do. So cool. It's hard to find, but they've done them a bunch over the last 10 years.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. I'll have to check those down. But so my first brush with Spider-Man was actually Romita Spider-Man.
Oh wow!
So that's the one that's I know like Ditko's the one that came up with it all, but in my mind, like the quintessential Spider-Man is the Romita Spider-Man and the Romita Kingpin and all of those. So that really got me into Spider-Man. And then I started looking at the modern ones that were coming out at the time, and the first one I think I started collecting was Web of Spider-Man. Weirdly, not amazing or spectacular.
That is kind of weird, yeah.
Yeah, I remember the very first one was I think it was the one where J. Jonah Jameson is like holding the crushed up newspaper and like he's yelling something at Spider-Man. And
yeah.
You know, one of the million times he's yelled at Spider-Man.
Very Jonah, yeah.
Yeah. I think it was Mark Beecham, if I remember correctly. He was doing some covers back then. But anyway, that one really got me into Spider-Man. And then I discovered X-Men after that. And those were my 2 main titles that I was really into.
Okay. Oh, we have a quick question. Where can we buy the Last Mermaid wall scroll?
You know, I actually have these just for conventions. So they're not for sale, but I do have a in-print page. The link is in my Instagram on my profile, and you can buy a print of it. So it's not this big, but you can buy a print of it. You can buy a print of the other one, the other cover as well.
Nice.
Yeah. These are the covers of the 2 first issues, which I know you just showed, but awesome. Thanks for picking them up, man.
Of course, yeah. Like I said, that we talked about it. That second issue was under ordered, and then probably on the back end you're gonna see it was ordered the appropriate amount on week 2.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, I mean it's been selling out everywhere, so that's what we like to see.
I hope it keeps going.
Yeah.
The story's going to be about 25 to 30 issues. So the sales, do have to hold so that I can get there.
Sure.
Yeah, crossing my fingers. Yeah.
Everybody needs to go to their comic store and say, hey, I want to start reading Last Mermaid. Because the first issue went into a second print, which is always a good sign.
Yeah. So there was that steep drop though to the second issue, but I heard that's very common.
That's what I've heard too. I mean, there's been like literally 1 or 2 exceptions to the rule, and the one I can think of is Walking Dead, which is like it destroyed all expectations, and then like it went down, and then it started to rise up, and the print run started to go normal. But
was that when the show came out or before that even?
It was before it. Yeah, it was before the show came out. Like the print run starts dwindling almost immediately, and then it starts going up like issue like 10 or something or 15 or something like that.
Okay.
But all right, so we'll get to Last Mermaid, but I do want to ask you, because your art styles between all of the stuff I've ever seen kind of vary, and it's interesting to see who are the artists you were looking at when you were younger, like starting to learn to draw and like getting into it.
Yeah, I mean, Romita was a big one, when I was starting to learn how to draw. But before that, it was probably more of the manga type style. Yeah. And which is why when you look at my art style, it does vary a lot. But you can definitely see an influence of both, I think, of Eastern style and Western style. And when I first started in the late 90s, there wasn't that much of that yet. Almost every art style now is kind of like a mix of both, but back then it was kind of rare. But one thing I do love to do, because I love all different kinds of art, because I guess what I grew up with, I like to try to find a style that fits the story.
That's great.
So in the Eternal Smile, which I did with Jin Luan Yang, we had 3 stories, but the 3 stories were totally kind of different kind of stories. And I wanted to make each one a different faction of comics. So the first one is drawn in like an indie superhero kind of Mignola kind of that kind of style, and then the second one was drawn in like a Karl Barks style, because it was a send up of DuckTales, or Uncle Scrooge, and then so I drew in that style, and then the third one, it was supposed to be like an indie comic, like a kind of morose sort of indie comic, right? So I tried to draw in that style. Yeah, very hatchy, and which I love those comics too, because I was really into superheroes at first, but then by the time I got to, by the end of high school, starting into college, I got really into indie comics. I discovered Hate by Peter Bagge. Yeah. That kind of like completely sent me on a total different trajectory. And that led me into like Chester Brown stuff, Joe Matt stuff, Love and Rockets, of course. Javi Hernandez is a big influence on my art style. I think you could kind of see it. Yeah. But yeah, so I think because I had so many different like periods of love of different kind of comics, from Japanese, Korean to American to indie comics, like, and of course European comics too, I think they all kind of like merge in my head somehow.
Well, that just shows that you wanted to explore everything. That's what it says to me. I mean, that's how as a reader, I feel like I am. I just want to explore all different types of all the voices and the people that bring whatever it is that they grew up on, into.
That's one thing I love about your channel too. Like you cover all different kinds of comics, not just like one thing, and creators.
Interests me. Yeah, everything interests me, and there's always different viewpoints and opinions and, ways to tell a story. It's one of the things that I talked about with Zdarsky. It's like, give me as many voices as possible telling stories, because then I'm going to have a greater sense of the world at large. And so conversely with that, like, because you come from an animation and filmmaking career as well, what movies and like what were your inspirations on that side as a young person?
Well, I mean, I know this is the most common answer, but definitely Miyazaki, Hayao Miyazaki. Once I saw his films, I mean, it just completely changed every idea I had about animation, of course.
Yeah.
Ironically, the first one I saw was that butchered version of Nausicaa.
Oh, really?
Called Wars of the Wind, that they released in America.
Yeah.
They did the proper Ghibli releases. So I remember the story being really butchered, but I still remember the animation and the world and the character design and the art was just so mind blowing. And then when I discovered the comic, if people haven't read the comic, I mean, it's one of my favorite comics. Miyazaki gets heralded a lot for his animation, but he's also an incredible cartoonist.
Oh yeah, he's an all around.
Yeah, I mean, if he had devoted his life to comics, he would be right up there with Otomo and all those other guys, in the conversation. But he just did that one as a complete long form comic. But Nausicaa, the comic is the movie only covers like the first book, and there's 4 books. So if you like Nausicaa the movie, you'll love the comic because it goes way deeper into the story and so much more moving. And
that's like Akira, right? If you love the movie, then the comic is just so much more.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and Akira, that was another big one, animation-wise, film-wise, that really, really inspired me. And even the Last Mermaid is influenced a lot by film, because the biggest inspiration for it is Mad Max. So I mean, I like to say, like, if you've ever wanted to see a mashup of Mad Max, The Little Mermaid, and Robotech, and who hasn't, I think you'll enjoy the Last Mermaid.
Maybe throw in a little Waterworld.
Oh yeah, definitely. I know a lot of people make fun of Waterworld, but I actually really like Waterworld.
It's great. It was a great concept.
Yeah, it's got a really like basic kind of by the numbers story, but the world and the tech and that kind of stuff, I think is really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah, and we get Dennis Hopper. I mean, you can't beat that.
Totally. And I remember that's one of the best, the meanest, like coldest comebacks. I think where the main lady is trying to ask Kevin Costner to do him a favor, like to take her somewhere or something. Yeah, he's the only one that can help her, and then I think she like takes off her clothes, and then he's like, you can have anything you like, and then he says, he pauses, and then he says, you have nothing that I want, and then he walks away.
Yeah, that
so
was
mean.
pretty
So
cold.
mean.
Pretty cold.
Yeah, it's really cold.
It's funny you mentioned Nausicaa, because the first Miyazaki I saw was the American, the Gaiman and written translated Princess Mononoke. And I don't remember anything about the story. I just remember how beautiful it looked. That's all I remember.
Yeah.
So it's like the American.
Yeah, it's on another level for sure.
It really was. Yeah. And I'd never seen anything of his before, and it was like I went to see that in the theater. But he's very inspirational. So moving forward a little bit, you won the Xeric grant, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Xeric grant, for people that don't know, was a foundation started by Peter Laird, Mr. Turtle.
Forever grateful to Peter Laird.
And and it's jump-started a lot of careers to get people into, doing what they love about comics. It's like he's one of the unsung heroes of comics in the last 40 years. I mean,
definitely.
For that contribution, we all know who he is when it comes to the fact that the two of them changed comics literally forever. And I would even say that, like, pop culture forever.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. And those first comics were so good.
Yeah,
that was another obsession I had when I was a kid.
Was the Turtles?
The Turtles. I love that original run. The run I had was that first. I think it was from First Comics. It was a collection of like. Each book had like I think 3 or 4, and they were colored.
Yeah.
The colors are so good, and that was the one that I grew up on. So when I saw it actually in black and white, it was a little bit jarring to me. I actually liked the color version better.
Yeah. I definitely saw the color version. Well, thank you, Diana.
Thank you, Diana. That's my girlfriend.
Oh, is it pronounced Diana or is it Deanna?
It's Diana.
Diana. Okay. Number one fan of Derek Kirk Kim.
You're so sweet.
All right. Well, there we go. That's a work right there. First Turtles I saw was the black and white. No, it must have been the color. But then again, I grew up on the animated, not just the series, but the Archie cartoon. And it was a shock to me that when I started looking at the original Turtle stuff, I was like, oh, this is super violent and like, PG-13 towards an R. The two of them really, really changed comics. And they, Peter obviously changed your life. And that, so did that lead to Same Difference? Was the Xeric grant, and then it was Same Difference, which is you swept. You got the EGOT for Same Difference.
I don't know how that happened. I just got really lucky or something. I don't know, but it was crazy. I mean, I've told this story before, so I'm sorry if somebody's heard it before.
Okay.
But I remember at the Harveys, which was the third one, I actually didn't want to win because I didn't want that much like pressure, I guess, to live up to all those awards. So I remember Chester Brown was also not Chester Brown. Jeffrey Brown was also nominated for Clumsy that year. And I remember loving that book, and I was actually praying that he would win the award. But it was. I'm forever grateful, and it really helped launch my career. And I did actually have a book before Same Difference. It was called Cell, and it was through Antarctic Press.
Nice.
And my very first work was doing Ninja High School, like covers and pinups and stuff.
Oh wow!
And from that, they let me publish, or they picked up Cell, which was another sci-fi comic I was doing at the time. But I stopped it at 3 because, first off, the sales were really bad, but also I didn't know where I was going with the story. I wasn't ready yet, I don't think. And then Same Difference was my second one. And I think at that point I was really ready to really write, So I did that one through the Xeric grant, and then after the Xeric grant version was sold out, I got picked up by Top Shelf. And then after Top Shelf, First Second published the latest version, which is a hardcover version.
I'd like to pick up a copy of it. I honestly, I've never read it, and I'd love to.
Okay. It's like 20 years old at this point, so
I know.
I don't expect anybody to remember it. To be honest.
Thing is like I knew you from the Fables, the anthology, 1001 Nights of Snowfall.
Awesome.
And but then you weren't in comics too much after that, and so
dude, I I still get like residual checks of like $0.25 or $1 like every year from that Fables book, and I just did like 5 pages or something.
Yeah,
It's amazing how far that book reaches.
Well, that book was one of those books that, like, in the, I took my 3-year break from comics in the late 90s, which is, I'm glad, because there was some garbage coming out in the late 90s. But,
I have to, maybe in the superhero realm, but in the indie world, I feel like the 90s was actually the golden age.
No, you're 100% right. I was speaking purely on the superhero world. And it was then that my buddy handed me, like, late 90s when I graduated high school, he handed me Sandman, Sin City, Watchmen, and some of that stuff, and I got to start reading some of these great writers. And then in the early 2000s with Vertigo and Image, I picked up Fables, I picked up Walking Dead, I picked up stuff that was being written as these great stories. And Fables is one of those books that, like, I feel like it's like Sandman. Anybody will enjoy it. Doesn't matter if you don't like comics. It doesn't matter if you're, like, there were a lot of women that I knew that were reading Fables, which was nice. It's like, oh, cool. A book that isn't geared towards just stupid boys,
Right.
And so when I read that book, and I think I talked to you at Emerald City about it, it was like I was hanging out at Cotton Candy Machine a lot when I lived in New York still. And, I knew Tara and Sean and stuff. And when I found out she was in this book, it was like, oh, I got to get this book because, it's all these people. And then what a murderer's row of artists. And so for anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, this is the 1001 Nights of Snowfall Fables anthology. Besides Derek, you have Esau Andrews, Brian Bolland, John Bolton, Mark Buckingham, James Jean, Mike Kaluta, Tara McPherson, Jill Thompson, Charles Vess, and Mark Wheatley. Holy shit.
Who are these people? I've never heard of them.
Right? Like, and so that was my introduction to your artwork. But then, you kind of left comics to go into animation, right?
Yeah, I mean, I did do a couple books after. I did one called Good as Lily, which was with Minx imprint, which was a DC book. They had a line for young adults for a little while. So I did kind of like a romantic comedy in that one. And then I did a book called Tune, which came out from First Second, and that one is actually like a really it's a story I was so excited about. It was one that I was working at the same time, the same difference. So it was like,
oh, wow,
all the way back like 10 years when I was making it. And people seem to really like it. The first version that I did when I did it as an online comic, but it didn't sell well enough for the series to end. So it was such a bummer. I did first 2 books, and then I had 2 more books that was going to complete the story, but it didn't sell well enough, so I couldn't finish it. So it's always like, Tune is always like a really sad memory for me when I think back on it. Because if I could have finished it, I think it would have been something people really liked. And there are a lot of fans of the first 2 books, but not enough that I could finish it. What's that?
Is there a crowdfunding option maybe for the future?
It could be. I mean, maybe if Last Mermaid does well, maybe I can go back to it. But actually, what I was thinking of doing was I did finish the script, but way back then. So I have the script for the 3rd and the 4th already completed. So I was thinking of actually doing like a script edition where I would just release the entire script with illustrations, so at least people can see the ending to the book.
Right.
The few people that want to know,
get that sense of completion on the story.
Exactly. Get that fulfillment. But that's also why I'm a little nervous about The Last Mermaid, because it happened to me once. So I really hope it doesn't happen again. Yeah.
Well, I other than, shouting about it and really, like telling people to buy it, like hopefully we can get that, like spread it like a, like a little contagious comic virus of goodness,
I hope so. That would be really cool. There's so much more to this story. I can't wait to get people to see it. I mean, the first 2 issues is literally like, I think the first 5 pages of the script. It's such a small amount of the story. I haven't even gotten to the main premise yet, which you'll find out in the 4th issue.
Okay.
Because the kind of storytelling I like is I gear more toward the manga kind of storytelling. Even though I love superhero comics are kind of formatted for that 22-page. You get like a really complete story. But if you read manga, 22 pages could be like somebody's just punching another person. Because like manga and films, I like to luxuriate in the moment. Like
Sure.
I don't want to skip a part of the moment if an eyebrow raise is really important. Like I want to show that. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So it's kind of like it comes out of drifts, but I think in the overall picture, once the story's complete, I think all those moments will pay off. At least I'm hoping.
Well, so the one thing I noticed in the new issue, and just as much as the first issue, I mean, you worked in animation, and the storytelling in animation is very, there you get a shot of something that's just beautiful. There doesn't need to be any dialogue or action in it. And with this, there's just some shots like in the new one when they're discovering the underwater and stuff. I could feel your storytelling is very much rooted in like what you just said, like let the moment happen, let's sit in it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um and so with that, and we'll cross back and forth, but when did you get into animation? Like in working, it was
Yeah, so it kind of links back to what you were talking about my the kind of disappearing from comics because of Toon's incompletion. I basically was like, what happened was I had the comic Toon, and then I also did a web series, like a live action web series that kind of tied in with the book.
yeah.
So Toon is about this art school dropout who gets trapped in a world where art doesn't exist. So he gets abducted by these aliens and put in the zoo. So he's like a human animal in the zoo for this alien species to watch, right? And he actually kind of has to use his art to escape, which
wow.
which seems crazy, but that's how he does it in the story. If I ever get to release a script, people will find out how. But I was doing a web series where I thought, what if that didn't happen to him? So he just lived his life as a normal struggling art student, and then what would have his life been like? So I had these two things. Like I had the web series, and then I had the Toon, and then both of them, neither one of them like struck a chord, I guess.
Oh no.
So it was really crushing, and basically I ran out of money. Basically, I had to make a living. You know what I mean? And neither project really took off. So then animation was the other option to at least get by for a little bit, and then I ended up really falling in love with it. But in the beginning, it was just because my comics career wasn't going anywhere at the time. It really stalled out, So even though I had a like a really great start with Same Difference, I had a really hard fall too, and then but luckily I got into some really great shows, and then I really just fell in love. After Axe Cop, working on Axe Cop, that was like my first show that I was on.
Yeah, that was a great show.
Oh, thanks, man. Such a crazy show. And I did a bunch of shorts too for that company as well, and I worked on like 5 different shows. There was a major laser show that was actually produced with the musician. Yeah, I worked on that. I worked on Golden the Insatiable, High School USA. There was a bunch of shows I was on late night at Fox. And then I got that design gig. I was a regular character designer on Axe Cop, and then I got the lead character designer gig on Adventure Time.
Yeah.
So
seasons 5 and 6, I think.
Yeah, I think so. It's hard for me to remember now because there's so many seasons. But yeah, it was really, really fun, and I get to stretch some muscles I had never really done before. That kind of style, that kind of schedule, working on so many episodes at once. And I even got to write one episode called The Music Hall. And
really?
It was like a Battle of the Bands episode where Finn keeps hearing this music that nobody else can hear. And it turns out the music was coming from this thing called the music hole. And this hole is like an ancient being. It's like literally like a hole in the ground, but music comes out of it.
Yeah.
And in my original story, it was like the origin of music in the land of Ooh. So anyway, that music hole ended up being the final shot of the last episode of the series. My one story contribution to Adventure Time ended up being in the finale, the kind of like the poetic end to the whole series. So it was so cool. It was like one of my proudest moments of being on that show. And then from there, I switched into storyboarding, and I worked on Green Eggs and Ham. It's a show on Netflix, and it's an adaptation of the book. And I got to storyboard for the first time on that one, and then from there, the usual step in animation is to go from storyboard to director. That's like the typical stepping stone. Like, and then I got the directing gig at Amphibia on Disney, and that really like changed my world in terms of my storytelling. And like if you see my comics before Last Mermaid, or the comics I did before the show and then after, which is Last Mermaid, you'll see that it's much more, for lack of a better word, cinematic and very pulled from storyboarding, I think. Like for me, it's like I can't even really. I can only think in that ratio now. It's like, you know what I mean?
Well, that's where your brain got. I mean, that's not a bad thing, because I think it helps the storytelling along too.
Yeah.
No, I was talking. I forget who it was I was talking to, but I was talking about how, like, when I read comics, inevitably I'm thinking in terms of like how my brain interprets it as if it was a movie.
And with sounds.
And not that I want to see it as a movie. That's how I'm interpreting it. And so when I read a comic that's very cinematic like that, I think Daniel Warren Johnson does a great job too. And the pacing of the comics, and the way, the angles he's using, and it's very much like first issue of Last Mermaid was good, but the second issue brought me in even further. Because I could hear what was going on. I could hear Lottie poking at the worms, like and the water and all that. And so learning about your background in animation, it made sense when I started reading this. What was
but if I could add to that, but I do want to say I don't think of Last Mermaid as like just some storyboards for a movie or anything like that. Like I my focus is to make a great comic. That's all.
Sure.
If it happens, it like gets made into a movie, fine. That's gravy. That's fine. But my goal isn't to make a movie or anything like that with it. I love comics. It was my first love. I never really meant to go into film or animation really when I was younger. I just want to make a really good comic, and the reason it is this format is because I started as a storyboard just for fun, because I was storyboarding at work all the time, and I wanted to storyboard something of my own. So I'd already done so much work, like in this ratio, 16:1 ratio, to redo it as a comic book format in an 8, because I wanted to use an 8-panel grid. I love like the storytelling in Stray Bullets, for example.
Yeah.
I love that 8-panel grid, which is why the comic is in an 8-panel grid format. But to make the 8-panel grid format with a 16:1 ratio, I couldn't do it as a regular comic. It was too narrow.
Right. It would,
the panels get way too small. So I had to kind of widen it. But the advantage of that, though, is that when I widened it, I have basically an option of putting the let's see. Let me see if there's an example. Yeah, for example, like this 8-panel grid, I have the option of these single panels that turn into 8. But then if I stretch it out, I have an option of 2.
Oh wow. Yeah. So it
you know what I mean? And then to go even further, I have an option of the spread as well. This is also the same ratio.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. Like that just there's a lot to take in that, and it gives you a feel like you're in. Like I want to get lost in a comic, right? I want to literally be lost in it. I want to open it up and forget about everything else that's outside of what's in this book. And that's what images like that do. Like you're entrenched in it. You're underwater with them. You're exploring with them.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'm glad it worked out.
And this to me is a different comic. Like when you hear the title, you think, okay, maybe this is geared towards kids. But then you get towards the end of the second issue and no,
it gets.
Why did you do that to us? Why did you do that to us? But yeah, you could tell this is not. I don't, and I know you've talked about it in other interviews about how a lot of the stuff you really were geared towards as a kid, fantasy stuff like Elf Quest and Bone.
Oh yes, I love both Elf Quest and Bone. Yeah.
And the thing is, those books don't work if you don't build the world at first.
Yeah, definitely.
Like when you think of classic movies that have great, or classic books that have great world, like Labyrinth, the Jim Henson stuff.
Yes.
Tolkien obviously went further than almost anybody else ever did with building a world. George Lucas did too, and what I can see that you're doing, I know without knowing what's going to happen, like the first couple issues, we're just getting to know everybody. We're getting
Yeah,
to know
exactly.
the situation.
Because the story is so like, I'm not saying I'm like the greatest writer or anything, but I do think it is pretty unique. I mean, at least that there hasn't been anything exactly like it.
Yeah.
So I had to set up a lot of things people aren't familiar with. Like,
Sure.
how would a mermaid survive in a place with no water?
Right.
So I had to kind of set up all these things to get people familiar with that, but not do it in an info dump. I hate info dumps.
No, it doesn't work.
Yeah, and I hate long blocks of text, like explaining everything instead of showing you. So
Yeah.
I wanted to show everyone in the beginning what it's like, how she walks around in the machine, how the machine transforms, how the water toxicity goes up, and she has to replace the water. All these things,
Right.
but I wanted to show it in an exciting way, like her actually going through the struggle of it, instead of me just explaining it in a caption. You know, which the downside is, it takes more pages to do that, which means you get less story per issue. But I think the upside is that you actually feel, like you said, in the moment, it's coming at you in a realistic way,
Sure,
in real time, which is what I was going for. So, and you know, despite this really cute axolotl here on the back, it kind of shows what the tone of the story is really like. And I hope people see this Team Plus here.
Yeah, I mean, I never
Team
look
Plus.
at that, but
Yeah.
It's there.
I don't think most people do. And I've gotten like emails where people say, "Oh, I showed it to my 4-year-old daughter and she loves it." I'm like, "Oh no!" I'm so scared because there's some like really adult stuff. There's a scene where a man gets chainsawed in half in a few issues. So
first.
So I'm really nervous. I hope I don't anger any parents, but in my defense, it does say Team Plus.
Right, you did the due diligence there.
I hope so.
Yeah, Jabba points out, we know, it fits in a magazine bag, so there's no frustration there.
Thank you, Jabba.
Brady says, "Yeah, I prefer comics that show me rather than tell me." Yeah, I mean,
awesome.
It's great. There are some people that are great at dialogue, like Alan Moore is top of the food on that. But then there are some people, like in the 90s, that tried to be good with dialogue, and well, they just weren't. Would
you like to name some names? No,
I mean, their last names are start with L or M. Look, I love them. I love these guys.
I remember I was listening to your interview with Chip, and he was talking about the which I love, by the way. You did a great job on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that interview and Chip's work. But he mentioned Justice League International and Justice League Comics, and you had said you never read it. If you want good dialogue, highly recommend that comic.
Oh, really?
It's got some of the best dialogue, some of the best lines. It'll have you laughing out loud. It's really funny, witty, and it's also moving. It's people don't remember that part sometimes, I think, but the stakes are really hot.
I'll have to track it down because you saying it, him saying it, that it's like, all right, I'm into it.
It's fun, man. The first Justice Leagues, like the first collection or whatever. All the Kevin Maguire and Adam Hughes runs. Those two runs are just up to that point. I think is like such a great comic. Yeah.
And Hughes is a great artist that just doesn't do interiors anymore. So
I know, that's why if you want his interiors, the main place to get them is those Justice League comics. And he did an amazing job on that.
All right. Well, next I've probably had that run a couple of times in collections I bought, so I'm sure I'll find it again. I come across every comic at some point. So Lottie, the axolotl, which is this beautiful, cute little creature. What was she? How early in the story did you decide that was going to be the mermaid's companion?
It was pretty early on. Ever since I discovered axolotls, I was like, why is this not in a comic or a movie or animation? Like, it's crazy, right? I mean, there must be some that have it, but there wasn't any pop culture penetration that is familiar to everyone, right? So I just thought it was really amazing that nobody had actually really did that. So first of all, so that was one reason. And then the other reason is because it's such a dark story, I wanted something, a little bright spot in the story to anchor people, so it's not so grim. And then the other was the story function as the mermaid's way to bounce off her thoughts, So Lottie plays an important part in that as well. And also, I just, I was telling you, Nausicaa was a huge influence on me. And I wanted that same sort of dynamic that Nausicaa has with her little like chipmunk character. Yeah, it doesn't really, it's not a pivotal part of the story or anything, but it adds so much to her character because it gives her something to care for,
Of course.
and it shows a compassionate side. And because the mermaid is in this hostile land where everything and everyone is trying to kill her or eat her, um, uh, she can come off kind of mean, I think sometimes. You'll see later in the story, but it's only because she has no sense of trust yet, because everyone's been abusive to her whole life. So, but with Lottie, you can see a caring side of her, because of her motherly feelings toward Lottie. So I can show another side of her that you might not see when she interacts with people that she meets, because she doesn't trust anyone yet.
Right.
Which is why you don't know her name, because she won't give her name to anybody she doesn't trust. So if she reveals her name, that means she really trusts that person.
Interesting. Yeah, I was wondering about that, and in due time, I don't want to spoil anything. I did enjoy seeing that she's got some weapons.
Yes,
she's got some weapons.
She's not a damsel in distress for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's an important aspect of a story like this. Like, it's easy to make a damsel in distress, but I think it's a little bit harder to make a character that we know can hopefully defend, herself.
Oh yeah, I mean, and plus she's in a mech. You don't want to mess with this mermaid. She'll punch you into the ground. But but another thing is, every mermaid that we've ever seen, they're so kind of like docile, in pop culture, and mer creatures are like fearsome, man. There's some crazy. Look at octopuses, look at sharks. So I wanted to kind of imbue her with those kind of abilities, which is why she can change the color of her skin, just like an octopus. An octopus just fades into the rocks.
Camouflage,
yeah. So she can do that with her skin. She can change her skin color to anything to match the background, and she has these claws, kind of like Lady Death. Like Lady Death like claws, or is it Lady Death?
Lady Deathstrike.
Lady Deathstrike. Thank you. Yeah, Lady Deathstrike. She has similar claws that extend out of her fingers, so she can catch fish and stuff. But she'll use it for other things. Oh no, I haven't seen Lure.
I haven't seen that movie either. I don't know it, but I can imagine it's about the creatures with the the little light, and then they eat you. I'm assuming.
Yeah, those things. Yeah, for sure.
The ocean, the sea is a terrifying place that we know nothing about, almost nothing about, and
which I'm also using that fear at the end of the second issue.
You are. Yeah, you are.
Deep sea creatures is a big influence on that creature.
We know more about space than we do 5 miles below the ocean. So
exactly.
All right, so Tyler's got a question. What's it like working for Image versus other art form production companies that you've worked with?
I know this is gonna sound like I'm just shilling, but it is the best. I really do mean that, because Image is so awesome. They'll publish your book, foot the bill, everything, but they don't get in the way at all. Creativity.
Otherwise, they would have said, no, not this size.
Exactly. Yeah, even the size. I was surprised. Eric, he warned me. He said, if you do make it this size, your sales might not be as strong because people might be more resistant. But it's up to you. It's totally up to you. You left it up to me, and I stupidly, I guess, took the plunge. But he let me do it. I mean, that's a perfect example of Image just letting you do whatever you want. I've seen Image books that are stapled in the top or the bottom, I guess. Like lateral. They publish every kind of genre, right? I mean, I can't think of another publisher that publishes that much different kinds of genres as Image.
They've been the best.
Yeah. So I mean, to me, if you want to publish a genre book that's not Marvel or DC, I honestly can't think of a better place than Image. I mean, there's a lot of great publishers, of course, Boom, IDW, but Image, because it was founded by those artists. It's so artist-centric, and the deal is so artist first,
Right.
So yeah, I can't say enough good things about Image so far.
Me too. And talking, obviously I've had Todd on the channel, Eric, and then Eric will be back, and I'd eventually like to talk to Kirkman and then the founders as well. But Kirkman obviously is a huge part of Image and has been for a decade plus now.
I would love to talk to them too.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to talk to any of them. I'm too shy to talk to those greats.
Well, and maybe, we'll get you to talk to them. Maybe we'll have you on with them. So Sub 18 asked, to what extent did the pandemic impact you creatively in terms of The Last Mermaid? Which I'd also like to point out, before you answer that story has been gestating for a while, because the YouTube shorts that you did that were animatics of this book have been up on your YouTube channel for 3 years now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I first started as I mentioned before, as storyboards, and I put it together into an animatic. Animatics are like animated storyboards that have sound, music, voices, all that stuff. Just not complete animation. And actually, the pandemic was huge. But it wasn't because of COVID, really. It's just the COVID thing was one, but the other thing was I had a family medical situation with my parents, and so I actually had to move back during the pandemic from LA to, I was working at Cartoon Network at the time, and then back to my hometown of Pacifica to take care of my parents.
Okay.
So, which is where I live now, in Pacifica, and once I got here, I was kind of out of the LA animation world, So it was such a perfect timing, at least in terms of my going back to comics, because it gave me all this time to work on the comic, and it was perfect because I could take care of my parents when they needed me, and then I could work on the comic when any free time that I had. So and then it brought me back to comics, which is also awesome, and I'm so happy about. During those 10 years in animation, I had so many stories building up, but I couldn't tell them. And I did try to pitch some of them as animated shows, but getting an animated show, your own, is like winning the lottery. I mean, every storyboard artist, every designer, they're all pitching when, as they're working on other shows, right? So, I mean, these people are hearing like 100 pitches every day. It's crazy. So, but in comics, you don't have to go through any of that stuff.
Yeah.
You can just do whatever you want. Yeah. It's so awesome. Yeah. But Dave, before we go.
We still got some time.
Okay. If our time is kicking down, I actually, since you're showing off all your comics here.
Yeah.
So when I came back to Pacifica to take care of my parents, I found this box. My mom labeled this Derek's comic books.
That's awesome.
And this is from like when I was in high school. I got rid of all my comics at a certain point, like in my mid-30s maybe, because I was so sick of I was moving like every year at one point, and I was so sick of moving those like 6 to 8 long boxes. And so a lot of those comics that you were just selling, like I had all those, like I had that Spider-Man 300, I had that Silver Surfer, like half those comics I had, but I just donated them to the local comic book store because I wanted. Yeah, I just wanted to move so bad. I mean, I wanted to just move without having to move them so bad.
Sure.
So I just donated them. I just gave them like 6 to 7 long boxes, and now I'm like looking at the prices of these things, I'm so regretful. But Dave, would you like? I haven't opened this. I don't know what's in here. This is from when I was in high school.
Let's see what's in there. Let's do an unboxing with Derek Kirk Kim.
I'm still curious. Yeah, what I saved in here. And I know the top one because I looked in the top, but I didn't go any further down.
Yeah, let's do it. We still got some time. I would love to see what is in this mystery box of your old collection that hasn't been looked at in decades.
I'm so curious too. Okay, the first one is Amazing Man. Do you remember this guy?
Funny fact: Amazing Man Annual 1 or 2 has a 1-page story by Todd McFarlane.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is number 7.
If you have it. This is great.
Wow, this looks so cool. I don't remember the story at all, but I remember the comic.
I think it's just like a parody comic that they used to do for DC, kind of like how Marvel did What the.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
right.
I think that was their competing book.
Oh, okay.
What else?
Wow. Okay, you know what? This must be from the M section. You know how I have my comics in alphabetical order?
In alphabetical order?
Yeah, and I think what happened was when I moved and I packed all those comics. I think this is a section that I forgot. I think I forgot it in this box and didn't put it in the long boxes. Wow, this is an obscure one.
Magician. I don't know that book at all.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that. That's amazing, though.
Yeah, it looks like another quarter buy.
There you go.
Do you know how to turn off the centering camera thing?
I think it's on. If you go to, you're using you got an iMac, right?
Yeah, I'm using an iPad.
So you see, if you can, there's like a little camera icon on my laptop that would change it, but I can't change yours. I don't think.
Okay, that just turned it off. Okay, well, never mind. I guess it's not that important. Magic Flute by P. Craig Russell.
Yeah, P. Craig Russell's a legend.
Wow, this looks awesome.
His art's fantastic. He's been around for 40 years, 50 years almost at this point in the comics.
Yeah. I love this Elric run. His Elric adaptations.
I love the Sandman. He did one of the Sandman books with Neil.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Now we're getting somewhere. Madman.
Ooh, Madman. Is that number 1? Or
this is the Dark, I think a different series. Number 4. No,
number 4, yeah.
Yeah, Madman Comics.
So let's see if I can predict what's coming up. Miracle Man will be in there somewhere.
Miracle Man as a whole in my comics knowledge. Ooh. Yeah, I still haven't read Miracle Man, but it's on my list. I definitely want to read it. You know what? Because I was flipping it from the back, now it's going to L. I think we finished the M's.
Lux and Albie. I don't know that book at all. That's early Dark book, like mid 90s probably.
Yeah. Martin Miller and Simon Fraser. Interesting.
So while we're doing this, there was 2 other questions. When you're done with The Last Mermaid, would you be interested in exploring the lore of that universe, like a prequel of how it all became to be?
In the course of the story, you'll find out why the world became this way. But I do definitely have more stories if it ends up being popular enough. There's so many characters and stuff that will be coming, and I definitely have stories I can tell beyond this first story. Yeah. And
then next year you have Royals coming out, which is it a self-contained story or is there potential for a sequel?
It is is Royals. Royals.
Royals.
A self-contained story, but also that one, if it becomes, if people like it enough, I definitely have more stories for that world as well. Yeah.
Awesome.
Love Sucks.
That feels like a very like Kevin Smith era.
Yeah.
The Reality Bites.
Totally. I think it's from that era.
Yeah.
Definitely. Wow, this is crazy, man. I haven't seen these comics in like 20 years. I'm not even joking. Oh, this one is really interesting. This is an Otomo book.
Okay. Yeah, that's when they were doing the Dark Horse manga. I've never heard of that one. Legend of Mother Sarah.
Yeah. So he just wrote this one and then somebody else drew it.
Okay.
But this is a little bit in theme with Last Mermaid. It's a post-apocalyptic desert world story. And by the way, please feel free to stop me at any time. Okay?
All right, yeah, we can go for at least another 10 or so minutes.
10? Okay.
At least, yeah.
If this is boring for anyone, just let us know. I can stop.
More Mother Sarah.
Look at this sick cover, though. I mean, these covers are so awesome.
Yeah, it was interesting. That was like that era, and I didn't know that they were doing as much manga. Like I knew they did Ghost in the Shell and some other big ones, but I didn't know they did some smaller ones that I had never heard of, especially Otomo.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, more Mother Sarah.
Yeah, because there's Farewell to Weapons was one of the ones that they put out.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow,
does anybody in the audience have they read Legend of Mother
Anybody
Sarah?
out there ever read Sarah? I don't know why I call it Sarah.
This comic is really good. I mean, it's Otomo, of course. So let me make sure I'm not like dreaming about. I'm not getting this wrong. Yeah, story by Ketsuro Otomo.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and this artist is amazing too.
Egg Roll said they've read it before.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Glad I'm not the only one.
Pauly Shore. Yeah, it kind of does look like Pauly Shore.
What's that?
The cover, the character kind of looks like Pauly Shore from Biodome.
This?
Yeah. I don't know. One of the covers. I don't know.
That's hilarious. Oh, Leave It to Chance. Did you read this one?
No.
Okay, so this was by Paul Smith, I believe. Yeah. Paul Smith.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he did the
Paul
art.
Smith of X-Men fame.
And James Robinson. Yeah, James Robinson and Paul Smith.
Yeah, I don't know that book.
Yeah, this is a really fun book. This is sort of
this
like
era, I was too young to be looking at, like, knowing what that stuff is. I was still reading just Wolverine and X-Men.
Oh, gotcha. You know what? This might have been when you were out of comics for a while, because this was a 90s.
Oh, that's late. Okay.
Late 90s thing. It was like,
ooh, I've never seen this turtle.
Heroes and Ninja Turtles.
Who put that book out?
Wow, it's from Genesis West. That's pretty obscure. Wow.
Do you have like a Grail book that you love, or something that you still own that, like, your favorite book of all time, comic wise, or anything like that, or something you'd love to own in the future?
You mean that I gave away in that purge?
Yeah, or a comic that, like, you still hung on to, or something that if you saw a copy of it, you would pick it up in a heartbeat.
You know what? I really regret getting losing the first Zot collection. There was because it's in color, and if you notice, it's never been collected again. Those color issues. So the first collection has the first 10, which was the color issues, right? Yeah,
that big trade paperback.
Yeah, but there's a big one with all the rest, which are the black and white issues. But there's a thinner collection of just the first 10, and I think it was 5 and 5. There was two color ones, but they don't make those anymore. They're completely out of print. And Scott told me he can't reprint them because they were done in with those, those like I forgot what it's called, but like that clear, transparent acetate thing or whatever. How they do the color stuff then?
With the overlay.
Yeah, with the overlays. Thank you. And he doesn't have those anymore. So as far as he knows, there's no way to reproduce those unless you just scan it directly from from the comic page, which won't be as clear. Good. Yeah, which never is good. So,
Justy, I have at least a stack of the Justy.
Oh, really? Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's a pretty obscure one. Wow. Look at this one.
Why? Is that an SLB? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We got another question from Sub 18. Which comic book series, graphic novel would you like to see adapted for animation, TV, or film that hasn't yet?
Actually, we were just talking about it. I would love to see Zot.
Yeah, there you go.
So right for a TV series, right?
Yeah. That's, I had a trade paper. Next time I see one, I'll grab it and send it to you, because I've had them like 2 or 3 times, that collection. Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. Okay, that's awesome, man. I think it was from Eclipse.
Was it? Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think
I know the cover because I sold one of them about 3 or 4 months ago.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Yeah. That would be so nice of you, man.
I get a lot of indie collections, just a lot of, collections from people where it's like out of print hardcovers. Like, I don't know if you saw like this. I sold one of these already. This is signed and sketched by Stan Sakai. Like, because Fantagraphic, like all of the indie publishers are on the West Coast. Every single one of the good ones are on the West Coast.
That's true. Yeah.
Especially the older ones too, that may not exist anymore. So I get a lot of that stuff here.
Yeah. That would be so cool.
Ooh, there it is.
Speaking of which, Justice League, it's in here. This is the Europe version when it starts spinning off. It's not as strong as the earlier issues. It kind of it kind of starts to fade after a while, but it's still really fun. Wow, I don't even remember this one. Jump Food Noir.
Looks like some black and white. Oh, I have that book. John Bolton.
You have this one?
Yeah. Bolton, there you go. One of your fellow cartoonists that were in 1001 Night, One Night Snowfall. All right, we got another question. How did Derek meet Ethan Young?
Oh, I know we tabled next to each other at one point, I think at an Ape, but just through comics, I think. I don't remember, actually, to be honest, exactly where I first met Ethan, but Ethan is doing a variant cover for number 3.
Oh, nice.
The Last Mermaid, which looks really sick. Because I can't wait for that to come out. Yeah.
There haven't been any variant covers yet, right?
Nope. So that Ethan's doing the very first one. The 4th doesn't have one. And then Robin Har, who's a painter, is a really great painter, digital painter. He's doing one for the fourth one. And then on number 6, I'm so excited about this. I'm gonna have 3. One by Joy Ang, who's an amazing painter. I worked with her on Adventure Time. And if you've ever seen those beautiful title cards that come up in front of every episode, she did the majority of those.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she does comics too. And she's an incredible painter. She did one. And then Jean Luen Yang, from way back and of American Born Chinese fame and Monkey Prince and Million Comics. He's doing one. It's a beautiful cover. And then why am I blinking? Oh, jeez. Sorry.
Well, I have a suggestion for a future variant cover.
Uh-huh.
Somebody that's a big fan of yours and a friend.
Oh, sorry. Jacob Perez. Why?
Oh, there you go.
Jacob Perez, who's the artist of Royals.
Okay,
yeah, he's an incredible artist. Check out his Instagram. He's an amazing artist, and we're doing Royals together, and he's doing a variant for it, and it's really cool, really exciting one. Sorry, Jacob. I don't know why I blanked for a second there.
Don't worry, Jacob.
So much to keep in my head.
So much pressure right now. He's unboxing his old collection and trying to answer questions. Well, I think at some point down the line, you should get Becky Cloonan to do a Last Mermaid cover.
I mean, if she wants to do it, I would be insanely thrilled. But
I think she would.
You think she would? Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like she's too big. She's too out of my price range. I think she'd be out of my price range.
Well, I can tell you, like, we've talked about the book, and she loves the book. So,
okay.
Yeah. And you guys, did you ever meet, like, before? I don't know if you guys saw each other at Emerald City this year, but you've met.
Becky and I actually go way back.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, back to my same difference days. We actually knew each other even more back then.
Okay.
I'd see her all the time when, like, after parties and convention hangouts and stuff like that. So yeah, we've actually hung out a lot back in those days. But once I got out of comics, I hadn't seen her in a long time. And that's another actually great thing about coming back to comics, is reconnecting with all my old comic book friends. That's actually been, like, probably the best part.
Yeah. Well, there's already second print and number 1, so it would have to be the third print to get a variant cover. No, I always kind of associated like everybody.
But Becky's so good, and I love Somna. I'm actually reading issue 3 right now, and I can't wait to see how it ends. Yeah.
So we're gonna do, and this, we haven't set up a date yet, but I did talk to her about her and Tula coming back on, doing a top-down view, and us talking about their favorite pages through all 3 books.
Oh, so, nice.
Yeah. I want to try and do something like that.
In that interview, I love that you showed off the original art. I didn't realize they were so big. It was crazy.
They are huge.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
I had to buy a whole new portfolio, like Golden Age size, to just get those pages in there. But
nice.
Yeah, it's one of the. I mean, I put that as my favorite book that came out last year, and then the beginning of this year. It's so unique, and
I agree. It's one of my favorites.
This is unique, like, in a obviously different way. It's not a horny romance supernatural horror comic, but
not yet.
Let's go through a couple more books, and then we'll see what else we got.
All right, I'm like halfway through. Let's see. Hero Sandwich. Do you remember this one?
Looks like some more black and white stuff.
Yeah, I love kind of like Jim Rugg. I love that 80s black and white boom. Like, I love all those. They're kind of like the and I don't mean this to disparage anybody, but, like, they're kind of like the B movie films of the 80s, like that kind of vibe, which I love. So it's not a put down at all. I love that kind of stuff.
No, not at all.
Yeah. And I collected a lot of this, like, just obscure
The Jam. I don't know that book either.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the artist's name, but I think he's actually a really good artist, and I think he was friends with Chester Brown and those guys. I could be wrong, but yeah. Another Hero Sandwich. I remember this being a really fun comic. Is this Chuck Austin? It might be Chuck Austin.
Huh.
I can't remember, but that was a really fun comic.
Hepcats,
of course.
Yeah.
Whatchamacallit? Cartoonist Kayfabe's favorite.
Yeah, because the Palmer's Picks Hepcats feature. Ooh, the Hellstorm #1 with that canvas, weird kind of paper cover.
Was this? This is Beecham, right? Yeah, this is Martin.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I have no recollection of the artist, but I can remember what the tactility of that cover feels like.
Yeah. If people out there don't know his art, he's famous for Samurai, that continuity comic. Yeah,
he's a great artist.
Yeah, he's a great artist. Heat Seeker. I don't even remember this one. Caliber. Wow. I love these kind of like sci-fi, like B-movie kind of comics.
Martin Watson has a question, and I think you'll agree on this. Did the art style that you used in Adventure Time bleed into the style, on Last Mermaid, or is he
not at all?
Not at all.
Maybe Joy's paintings, because I look up to Joy Yang's paintings that she did for those intro things. But other than that, yeah, art-wise, not really.
Not really. Okay.
Yeah. In fact, when I was a character designer there, I really had to kind of really have to reconfigure my brain to draw like that.
Yeah.
It's so different from where I came from. Yeah.
Right, because you're also drawing in the style of the people that created Adventure Time instead.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I had to match those guys.
Yeah.
So, but it was fun. It's very easy to draw in that style, to be honest. So, because it's a very simplistic style. But yeah, it's actually amazing that they could get so much expression and emotion out of those very simple faces and designs. It's a real tribute.
Oh my God, some Defiant good guys.
Defiant book.
You donated the wrong boxing to the comic store. Right now, you could be like, "Here's my Amazing Spider-Man 300," but then you showed us a Defiant comic.
Man, jeez. If we're talking monetarily speaking, yeah, definitely.
Sure.
But maybe not an enjoyment. I don't know.
That's true.
I must have loved all these comics to have them.
Is that Adam Hughes? Yeah, that's a Hughes cover. He did like 10 or 15, maybe even more. I didn't realize that book went up to like issue 40, 50 something.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I think I have them in my garage actually.
Wow, I didn't know it went that far. Wow, this is obscure.
Garden Bag.
That looks like self-published. Yeah, I think it's
like
self-published.
Black and white goodness.
Man, I can't wait to look through these again. Oh wow.
Oh, French Ice. I was looking at the back cover because look what's on the back cover. Usagi, yeah. Funny thing, the painting for that Usagi cover sold on Heritage recently for somewhere like $12,000 or $15,000.
Are you serious? Oh,
yeah, his original paintings go for a lot of money.
Wow.
Rightfully so.
Wow. I'm so happy for Stan though.
Stan, because he's had a great career.
Yeah, but for a while, like you wouldn't really hear his name brought up when the people talk about Ninja Turtles or whatever. They would just talk about his lettering. I'm like, he's a great letterer, but he's a phenomenal cartoonist.
Yes.
Why is he not being heralded as much for his cartooning? And absolutely. I'm so glad now it's finally caught up. That kind of Ooh, look at that.
Firestar. Little Barry Windsor Smith?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think he did the insides, but he did the
No, I think he would just be a cover artist on that.
Yeah. Oh, this is another Otomo.
That's a great
this is the one you're talking about.
Yeah, Farewell to Weapons. Like, it's not I don't think it's officially an Akira book, but I think it's set in like the same timeline or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a very hard to find book. It's actually quite expensive. It's like a $60 book. Yeah.
This one?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so there's one that I kept that was wise, I guess.
That was the smart one. Well, yeah, keeping a Tomo is never a bad thing. It's always
true. That's true.
Oh, there it is. The Neighborhood Watch, Fantastic Four, Marvel 25th anniversary cover.
I love that border thing.
Oh, that border's a classic.
Yeah.
Absolutely classic.
And I see a lot of Power Pack on the back here. So these.
Oh no.
You don't like Power Pack?
No, I the only Power Pack I like is the one cover where Wolverine's about to skewer one of them. Oh, there we go. We got some John Byrne Fantastic Four, the Hitler cover, and then the Action Comics 1 homage. Great book.
How crazy is that? Hitler's on the cover of Fantastic Four.
Yeah. I right. And when you think about it, like Kirby fought in World War II and co-created the Fantastic Four, and now Hitler's on the book that he's created. Hey,
yeah,
they probably beat the piss out of Hitler in that book. Hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah.
I think the rest are Fantastic Fours. I'm a huge John Byrne. John
Of
Bernmark.
course.
Yeah, I grew up on his Fantastic Fours. One of my favorite runs for sure.
I mean, like, I didn't. It's funny. I didn't grow up on Byrne. I knew who he was because he was on Fantastic Four and then the early Dark Horse stuff. But as I got older and I look back at his X-Men stuff, and I really started to appreciate that and the Fantastic Four stuff.
Awesome. I feel like he's one of those guys that's like, he's almost like built in a lab to make superhero comics.
Yeah.
Like, the way he draws, his speed, his storytelling, his stories, like he was literally born to write and draw superhero comics. Like, I feel like, you know, yeah. This is that Stan Lee.
Yep.
Stand up.
Stan Lee on the cover with She-Hulk, and then always dug that next one, the second one that you have in your hand there.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
It's the use of the lettering, shooting. It's kind of like reminds me of like when they used to show like CBS or Olympics were on TV, they'd have that graphic that comes shooting in.
Totally,
like
man. Totally. Yeah. Even like in the Superman movie.
Superman movie. That's probably the first place I saw it, the opening credits of Superman. Yeah.
And man, props to the letterer or whoever did that. Like pre-digital, like that's insane. That's so much work.
It's way too much work.
Yeah, like I don't even, in a non-digital age, I don't even know how he did this. Like, did he have to like Xerox this and then shrink it? And then
probably that's probably exactly what they did. And then whoever did the coloring too, it's a hell of a job.
That's madness. That's madness.
There was no computer coloring back then. 1980. Whatever.
Incredible. Yeah. And even the art, goes back.
Yeah. You got to photocopy everything and just keep shrinking it.
All right, we're at the last two.
All right, what do we got?
And we got Cowboys and Idioms.
There you go.
And the best way to end it, it's clobbering time.
Oh yeah, that's a killer cover. Killer.
That's such a good cover. Oh
yeah.
Gosh, look at that.
It's badass. It's the best way to describe it.
Yeah. We started off shaky, but we ended strong.
Yes, we did.
Classic John Byrne.
Well, I think that's a great way to close it. But before we get going, I want to tell everybody once again, your comic store, go to them and say, hey, I want you guys to order copies of 1 and 2, and then put me on a pull list for 3 and ongoing from there. As Derek said, like sales are the only thing that's going to keep this book going is to make sure people are buying it. Yeah,
pretty much. And the collection comes out in September. So if you are not a periodicals person, there's a collection coming out the month after. The periodicals need support to get to the end. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll do this again when we get a little further in and we can talk spoilers, maybe around like the time that the 5th issue hits, and we can go through the 6th issue, the first story arc. But Derek, it was a pleasure having you.
It was a blast, man. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
Yeah, and
part of your Davenger Con.
Thank you, and keep in touch. And you can follow Derek. His Instagram link's down below. His YouTube channel link is down below. Give him a follow, and heap the praise. Keep talking about this book, everybody, because the more you talk about it, the more people are going to be like, oh, I should take a look. I should read it. So
I hope so. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, Derek.
I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to pick one. Which one's the better one? Which one's the better? I guess it's an exclamation or team gathering exclamation. Avengers Assemble or To Me, My X-Men?
Oh, come on. To Me,
which
my
one?
X-Men.
Nice.
Yeah, because it's just, he's not even saying it. He's saying it with his mind.
That's true. Yeah.
But what about you?
You chose wisely. I would pick, To Me, My X-Men. Yeah. Well, I mean, Avengers Assemble is cool, but it's not as like mystical or something. I don't know.
It's also not as cool as Davengers Assemble.
You know what? You better never move from the West Coast because you're gonna have to change all your logos and your channel.
I know. We're gonna make sure that if I do move to the West Coast, or if I do move, it's gonna be the West Coast of somewhere else. So,
The
so
West Coast of Korea.
if I move to Scotland, I'll move to the west coast of Skye, so that I'm West Coast Davengers in Scotland.
That's great. That's the only escape. The only escape.
Yeah. All right. Well, Derek, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
and
man.
we'll talk again soon. And once again, everybody, check out The Last Mermaid. Otherwise, all the mermaids are going to die, and there won't be any mermaids left.
Thank you, man, and thank you, everyone. Thank you for all the kind words and for watching. Appreciate it.
Awesome, Derek. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Well, thank you for watching. That was 90 minutes, but for me, it's been 30 seconds, maybe even less. Do the thing, like, drop a comment down below, all that good stuff, and I'll see you next week on the... Yep.